Take 10. It's a little different today. Dr. Gayla is interviewing pastors' wives from all over the United States of America and getting their take on how they handle their issues and everyone else's. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah. So how do you deal with criticism of you yourself or your husband? How do you deal with that?
Winston Churchill's wife said a quote that I really related to, and she said, "I am instinctively a protective and loving wife." And so I think instinctively you go to protection mode, right? You go to either self-protection or protection of your husband. And loving mode, you love them, you love your husband, and so you want to hear the best of him. And some people don't understand the decisions that he has to make, or they don't know the whole picture, the whole story. And sometimes it's not for us to publicly say what's going on in any given situation. So I tend to go into protect mode. I will say something like, well, it may seem that way, but you don't know the whole story. And I'm not at liberty to share that. A lot of times I just let things go. It's their opinion. And really, what does that change for me? At the end of the day, I still go home to my same problems, and I still have to cook dinner, and I still have my bills to pay, and I have my house to clean. And so what does it really matter at the end, as long as I'm good relationally with the Father?
So you just try to wash it away?
Yeah. I think it's, people's opinion.
Right.
It's an opinion.
And we've all learned that their opinions change day to day based on their mood.
Or based on where they're falling on that side of the coin.
True. True.
There are some hard things that my husband has had to just, bear the burden of. And, he's made some decisions, and not everybody understands them. But it's not for him to understand.
Right. And we don't have to be the press release.
Right. That's right.
We don't have to answer for that.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly a freeing thought that you don't have to be the one to answer for it.
Mm-hmm. It's painful. I mean, sometimes if someone is being very critical of your husband, it's painful. Or even of you. But, you just have to let it go and ultimately take it to the Lord.
Be strong enough to move past it. And bigger than the issue at hand.
Yes. Yeah, that's important. That's good.
What do you think the biggest blessing is in being a pastor's wife?
Being married to Doug Young. Yeah. That's my biggest blessing, being married to him. Being able to sit with him in the evening and listen to how his day went, to be able to, I can't always give him answers. Some things are not mine to answer, but I can certainly, hold his hand through it and say, I'm so sorry that you're going through this, but we're going to get through it. And rejoice with him when things are going well, and he's had some great victories. And so, my biggest blessing is being married to the pastor.
What do you think the greatest burden of being a pastor's wife is?
Knowing that some things will never be revealed. Some things that are going on in ministry, the people will never understand. And so realizing that I need to be there for him, and I need to realize that regardless of what I'm thinking about it or feeling about it, as well as I do, that there are times when you're just depressed and hurt over something that happened, and so is he. But you have to be that one to just rally behind him. And, you've got to take your stuff to the Lord, and you've got to be there for him. Because ultimately, he's the front line. He's the one taking it all. Mm-hmm. So,
what would you advise younger pastors' wives to do about their greatest burden?
Take it to the Lord. Find a friend, a trusted friend.
Okay, let's talk about that right there. Find a friend. What kind of a friend? Somebody in the church?
No, not someone in the church.
Okay.
Just like in corporate or just like in ministry leadership, you always counsel up. You're not going to counsel with the church over things that are burdening you. They have enough on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to always counsel up. You're going to find that seasoned pastor's wife. You're going to find that friend outside of ministry to talk to. But yeah, you're not going to talk to someone in the church necessarily about what things are going on.
Mm-hmm. It always leads to trouble.
I think so. I think you have to be really careful. I think that our roles, I think you told me this one time, that our roles are a lot like politicians' wives.
Right.
We have to be very careful about, what is being said out there.
Right, because everything that you say can ultimately be repeated and added to or subtracted from.
Added to and also misrepresented, not
Yeah.
said in context of how you said it or said in a different tone or voice or something like that.
Right.
So, yeah.
So it's important.
Mhm.
So if you had say 10 minutes with a pastor's wife,
Mhm.
you had 10 minutes to pour into her, what would be your subject matter? What would you talk about?
Be yourself. Don't look to someone else to define who you're supposed to be. Everyone has their idea of what a pastor's wife is supposed to look like, and she looks so vastly different church to church, state to state, city to city. What works in California is not going to necessarily work in Texas. You need to be yourself. God called you. And that was my very first lesson, I think, when I married Doug, was that I thought, well, I'm going to be a pastor's wife because I'm married to a pastor, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to have this role in the church and that kind of thing. But the expectations came quickly. And if you don't have a good root system of who you are going to get lost in the process of trying to measure up to something that you were never called to measure up to, you were never called to be. God called you, and that's so important.
Right. And have the courage to be who you are.
Who
be
you
real.
are, yes. And so that's different for everyone. So you have some pastors' wives that are very involved in ministry. You have some that aren't. You have some that are in seasons. You have the young pastors' wives with the small babies and toddlers. She can't.
Right.
She can't do what my children are grown. I can do a whole lot more than she can do. She's got a season, and she's got to find that season, and she's got to do what she's been called to do
And accept her season.
Yes. Just like any other woman.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think sometimes we measure ourselves by others.
Yes.
And it makes us insecure as pastors' wives that we're not measuring up to what they're doing or whatever, and it's really not necessary, is it?
No. And I think social media plays a big part in that. Lisa Bevere, in her book Without Rival, talked about a time when she said that there's a list, and I don't know, I'm not on this list, I'm not close to being on this list, but there's a list of the top 100 most influential female pastors of the day. And she said that every year she looks at that list, and every year she doesn't make that list. And she said this particular year, a couple years ago, she's looking at this list, and she says people that she's mentored in ministry from the very beginning to now are on that list. Her friends are on that list, and she doesn't make that list. And she walks into John Bevere's office, her husband's office, and she says, I didn't make the list. And he's pulling out scriptures about how we shouldn't compare and how, it's not about the list. And then she calls one of her friends and she says, I didn't make the list. And her friend's like, why are you even bothered by this? Who cares? And she goes, of course you're saying that. You made the list.
Oh.
And I realized we're constantly forming that list.
Yes.
We're constantly trying to measure up to someone else's expectation. And the only one we have to measure up to is the Lord's.
Right.
If He's pleased, we're good.
Right.
So what does it matter?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And He said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Right. So be you.
Be you. Do you feel pressure to always put on the best face for any situation?
Yeah. But I think I felt that even before I was a pastor's wife. I think I always knew that my role was to try to encourage people.
Uh-huh.
And so I do try to, even when someone's going through something, I'll just go in there and my heart's crying for them. And, I may tear up when I'm trying to be encouraging and trying to be uplifting.
Right.
Yeah. And I think there is a measure of we need to just be okay.
Yeah.
And it's a false sense. We're not always okay.
We're not always okay.
We're not always okay. It could be prideful sometimes too. Yeah, the fact that we don't want to show that. So,
Yeah, I'm reminded of a minister's wife whose husband got into some serious trouble. And I admired her for this one thing. She stood in front of many press cameras and she had her game face on. She was representing her husband's ministry. And she bravely spoke up with a smile on her face and she said, "It's not over till it's over." And I admired her for that because she had the strength and the fortitude to not fall apart when the people under the ministry needed them to be strong. She was able to be strong. I admired that and always thought of it.
Yeah.
It's not over till it's over. And it's really not.
Yeah, it's true. It's not.
It's not. It's not. How do you handle, Susan, how do you handle interruptions?
A lot better now. I was extremely impatient, still am somewhat, but I've realized God directs my day. And I learned this from reading Arianna Huffington's book, but she takes, and she calls it meditation, I call it prayer, it's the same thing. She takes her first hour of the day and just prays. And I do the same thing. I just ask the Lord every day, direct my day. And I have my own agenda. I have my own to-do list. I'm a list maker, so I've got that list made and of the things I want to accomplish. And ministry can be so frustrating because it's a work that's never complete, right? Ministry is just never done.
Uh-huh.
And so for someone who's task-oriented and wants to check that thing off their list, there's a lot of things that don't get accomplished. But what I realized is if I'm praying God direct my day every single day and there's interruptions, then obviously that's directed. Right? So who am I to cancel that out by saying, nope, I've got this list, sorry. That's not going to work.
True.
So,
Not gonna work.
there are days when two things get checked off that list, but I've ministered to people who have stopped in the office for this, that, or the other. I've checked in with staff members. I've, moved around throughout my day and just done different things. And I have to be okay with that.
You have to.
You have to be.
It's unavoidable.
Yeah. Rick Warren says fast, fluid, flexible. So
That's good.
the flexible part, you just have to, ministry's not your normal, your normal
It's
business
not
day.
the normal thing. It's just not. What do you do when insecurity hits?
I self-talk. So where's this coming from? What is this about? What is making you feel insecure? And just try to work it out. They're going to happen. And, I'm always reminded of this particular incident that happened very early on in my marriage where I had gone to a women's retreat. Didn't really want to go. I had just been married. This was a 2-day retreat. Don't want to be away from my husband. So in the very first hour, they had us get on our knees and just pray and ask the Lord why we were there. And so I got on my knees so resentful and I said, Lord, I don't even know why I'm here. I just felt like I needed to be here, but I don't know why I need to be here. I'm not sure what's going on. And a woman who I'd never seen before walked up to me and she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, the Lord calls who he calls.
Ooh.
And she said, and you need to stand up and go get in your place because your church and your husband will not move forward until you do. She didn't know as a pastor's wife. I was at a women's retreat. She didn't know who I was. And she just walked away. And I realized in that moment, God calls who he calls. He called me for whatever reason. I don't know, sometimes I feel like he's desperate, but that's an insecurity. But there we are. And so I just need to get in my place and do what I'm supposed to do.
Right. Do what you're supposed to do and be Susan.
Yeah.
I know you enjoyed that. Who else would benefit from this Take 10? Take a moment right now and share this email, share this post. We want to get the word out that pastors' wives are important. We know they face troubles. We know they face troubles, and they are not alone. Share it with your pastor's wife today. Stay tuned for tomorrow for the next part of this interview.